this group that was laying underground for a few years, the 9-figure operators on WhatsApp, growing together, sharing all the hottest tips and tricks, not only on media buying, but also just operationally on their business, and make it public through their podcast. So the 9 operators podcast, I'll post the link, the YouTube link right now in the chat right now, available like by far. So I'm super grateful for the content that you're putting out on a weekly basis. I'm hooked and I'm up to date as well. Thanks for coming in and doing like a real life episode on this Media Buyer Summit. Really appreciate it, guys.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on behave and grow in life.
That's like I was coming from like sorry, So.
There you go, Jason. Yeah. You're inspiring people.
Dude, the podcast is blowing up. I got recognized getting coffee today, and I mean that's just pure fame. They did think I was somebody else, but they still recognize me as somebody, so it's working out.
This is great.
I see you lost the sunglasses, Sean. I felt like we should have all shown up with the sunglasses for this one.
I brought.
There we go.
Blue light glasses.
There we go.
Just to look extra nerdy.
Matt's looking very studious. Matt,
I'm trying to look smart, Jason. Yeah, let's do it, man. So we were chatting just before this in the green room, and I think, for us right now, what's topical is like sort of how's Q2 gone. In particular, Jason, you were talking June, and really, what are you guys thinking for Q3, Q4? How are you planning the rest of the year? Sort of like with how the first 6 months is wrapping up here. Maybe Jason, do you want to start? And then Sean, you can join.
I'm sure Sean will be much more insightful than me. So I'll just say, like, in June is typically a tough month. We find it, at least over the last few years. And I'm also talking to a lot of other brands who really struggle in June, and it sort of is what it is. And you just gotta hold firm, you gotta hold the line. As we are actually always sort of thinking, like, in the bad months or in the tougher months, what's our tolerance for our CAC to rise? And it's like a constant battle, because it's really hard to determine, like, how much should we really spend? Everyone has an opinion. Our CAC is definitely up over May, but it's 20% over last. So I'm actually really pleased with how, in July, should be interesting because of 4th of July and Prime Day, but then August, September, October, these can be tough months.
I would say that there's a couple different points to talk about. The first point is industry-wide. Most people are down, I would guess, in Q2. The average e-com brand, if you include macros and micros, whatever, down 10 to 15%. If you talk to big 3PL operators, they'll kind of collaborate that you're going to get more aggressive pricing from 3PLs now because volume is dropping, and they have commitments to a FedEx or UPS of the world that they kind of have to. Yeah, so I think there is macro issues that, just there's less dollars being spent in the ecosystem. So overall volume's down about 10 or 15%, right? People are spending less, so CACs are dropping, right? So I think, Jason, even though you're scaling up, I think CACs being down year over year is pretty common. I guess what I would say is last Q2 was really, really bad. I've talked about this, that gas prices were really high, and that the average American spends 7% of their income on gas. So if that 7% goes to 9%, they don't make more money. Those percentages just come out of disposable income. People buy less gifts, take less trips, whatever. We are super lucky that last year was so bad from an MER standpoint, but we're spending less money and sales are up. So I just feel like I'm the best operator on earth. But we just came out of our Father's Day season where
that's your big one. It's like Father's Day next to Q4 is your monster. Sean, you in our chat, you mentioned something about student loans as another one of these big sort of macro things that you're paying attention to. How gas prices last year, I think that's a great call out. We felt that in our Lomi business for sure, because we're a higher price point. This student loan thing, what do you mean? What is, I know what they are, but what is that?
Yeah. Student loans have been paused since COVID. Do you guys remember COVID? It was about 3.5 years ago. So student loan payments have been paused, delayed, and interest payments have been or interest has totally been stopped since March of 2020. And it's the last COVID stimulus policy that's going to go away. And it's going to go away in interest restarts in September. In October, payments have to be made. So, I mean, it's a huge consumer spending thing, right? The average person with student loans has like a $400 payment, and everyone just didn't have to pay that for the past 3.5 years, right? That's $400 were going to things like Taylor Swift tickets and Ridge wallets and HexClads or whatever else. And you think of student loans as like a young 20-year-old problem, but the ballooning cost of education, student loans, it's common to have them into your mid 30s now. So I think, I mean, Mr. Canada over there, I don't know how you guys pay for fucking
we
school.
Don't. Well, it's cheap. Yeah.
I mean, it is going to suck up a lot of disposable income going into Q4, and maybe we'll be spared this Q4 because like it'll just be the first couple of payments, and maybe Joe Biden will pass debt relief or something else. But if nothing happens, maybe Q4, for sure the first half of next year will be more difficult because, I mean, credit is expensive and those dollars have to be paid back. So looking...
Go ahead, Sean. No, I got a follow-up question for both of you, but go ahead, man.
I just wanted to, give a quick summary on this year in the context of COVID, right? Everyone had a hangover. You either had a bump in 2020 or a bump in 2021, right? Everyone had a hangover. For us, last year was more difficult, right? Revenue grew, but at the expense of efficiency. Like we ran efficiency into the ground last year. This year, we get, a bounce back, right? Often called the dead count bounce, but sales are going up, spend's exactly the same. And that's just because, ad prices are down, consumers are in a better place, whatever. That's the first half of this year. The second half of this year, I think inflation essentially goes away because of discount pressure by excess inventory, right? So you're going to, that could lead to more rate cuts, which could create that soft landing people talk about, right? But I mean, I imagine a discount heavy Q3, and I imagine a weakening consumer state into Q4. That's what I'm predicting.
That inventory hangover is one that I was actually going to ask you about, because like we see it. So like Lomi's an appliance, and I mean we're close with a lot of kitchen appliance and furniture, just like hard big home goods, like high AOV type stuff. And this year has been like really hard. Last like 21 and 22, if you sold couches, best ever, right? Like you could like double the price and you could just always sell the couches or anything like Instant Pots. And that's like, you saw it with them, like the inventory hangover right now. I don't know when this ends. I've heard it from like, the Traegers, like people who have barbecues. I know of one barbecue company literally laid off 80% of their manufacturing staff early this year because they're like, we have so much shit that we don't need to make new barbecues for the next 24 months. Right. So like and Jason, this might be more of a you thing. And cause Sean, I don't really know your supply chain that well. I'm just realizing this now, but like how far in advance are you placing those buys? And I think it's relevant for media buyers. So if there's media buyers watching this, I have seen this chatter on Twitter. I know you guys have, about how frustrated it can be when you're driving growth and the brand runs out of inventory. Right. So like how far in advance, Jason, are you guys looking at your buys?
Yeah, look, we planned out the whole year, and we have this additional problem in that we're very Q4 heavy. So we're actually ordering essentially double what we're starting in June. We've been ordering double what we've been selling. So we've over ordered. Never ever been there. Like this could be the first year. We've never had enough. So it's just one of those things where the rules here aren't applying to us, but we're just continuing to stay the course on our side, hopefully having the Q4 that we think we can have. Last year, Sean talked about how, the COVID bump, some people had a great 2020, some people had a great 2021. We had a really great 2020. 2021 was a little harder for us. And then 2022 was incredible, right? And we're like incredible. Our experiences applies across the board, but what we didn't do is over order a year ago. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I think people were just like drunk on the COVID bump and drunk on the cheap money. It's kind of shocking to me how like the lack of critical thinking skills that are out there among these professionals, like just thinking like this is never going to change. Of course it's going to change.
Yeah. Like I got two brands, so it's a little bit different, right? Like 21 was great for peel case. Like 2021 were great for peel case. 22 was harder. This year's about the same. Like I don't find this year overly great for a peel case. Like it's more efficient. I'll say that, Sean. Like we're spending less money and we're making more money in that brand than we did the previous years. Lomi is definitely, I think 23 is harder than 22 or 21. 20, and that is, I think that's mostly just the amount of share of wallet going into the house right now is significantly down. And that's like macro, and that's not us. But I'm hearing that from a lot of people. So it makes me feel good that I'm not a completely incompetent ninny.
Right. It's all about category, right? Like
it really is.
Yeah. We got some great media buyers probably listening to this, right? And they probably feel awesome when we're crushing it out of 5x ROAS and scaling shit up. Bro, it's all about category, right? I mean, if you were selling home workout equipment in 2020, it's like, I mean, I have a 100-pound German Shepherd. I could hook him up to Facebook ads and he could make that work, right? Because people just wanted to buy it so bad, right? But if you can do that this year, then you're special, right? You are actually breaking a mold. And Matt, like you have an amazing product. You're in a new category. You're groundbreaking. What's so difficult about what you're doing is, bro, we sell metal wedding bands, and getting those into a Shields or an REI for the first time, they're like, we've never sold metal wedding bands. Like, we just don't know anything about it. I'm like, people buy them. Like, they're just normal wedding bands. And now imagine that conversation being Matt, being like, no, it's a new thing that's never existed before. You probably broke it. I mean, it's a very difficult year, not only in the home category. I bet Home Depot's having a hard year, and the big manufacturers.
Oh, they all are. Yeah, man, you're seeing it. And I think that category dependence thing isn't actually talked about enough, because there's so much, and even within categories, there's so much nuance, right? Like HexClad is technically in the home, and I think he's breaking all of those trends. Like everything that I'm seeing across home and in is just not great. And, Jason's just smashing it. There's a lot of reasons for that. So I guess on that, how are you guys looking at Prime Day? Like we're 2 weeks out, it's super close to July 4th this year, which is fucking weird. I don't feel like it's ever been this close. Like how are you guys planning this? Like, Jason, you just fired up. I saw your 4th of July stuff. Are you just going to carry that through to Prime Day? Are you going to shut it off for 4 days?
We are going to run 4th of July. It's always been good for us. We couldn't skip it. Other brands are skipping it and focusing on Prime Day. It's just different. We had a really successful, both of the Prime events last year were excellent for us. We're just going to lean into it. Our 4th of July sale will end. We'll have 5 days or so, and then we'll have 4 days around Prime. Last year we did, I think, a couple million on Amazon over the 2 days in the first one. And, we're going to see.
And Sean, what about you, man? Prime Day is going to be better this year, worse? Is Amazon losing their luster? Like, can I also ask that? I feel like, I don't know. I don't hear about them as much. Is this a Canadian thing? I don't know.
Yeah. I was talking to AJ from Zesty Paws, right? And, I had dinner with him Sunday or whatever. And my argument to him was that Amazon's going to be down year over year. And he's like, well, some categories are exploding. And I'm like, without a doubt. And he's like, the best brands are going to continue to grow. I'm like, yeah, without a doubt. But
sure.
We've already seen this trend the past couple of years, is that Amazon has reached peak GMV, right? Like they're at 600 billion in e-commerce sales in the United States. And that's, 30% or half of it or whatever, right? And it's very hard to grow that share, right? And the only part of the business that's growing is their advertising business. I think aggregate e-com sales on Amazon will continue to decline for the next couple of quarters year over year. What is Ridge doing for Prime Day or July 4th? Basically nothing. I mean, we just sold 100,000 plus wallets in June for Father's Day. So we've never been a big Q3 brand, right? Like we're coming in, it's like a Q1 experience for us. We'll do a Prime Day sale. We're still seeing good growth on Amazon year over year, but I describe this as like our vacation period. Like we're getting ready for the second half of the year. We will barely have a July 4th sale. We like to keep that price integrity now.
I think we're gonna do July 4th for sure. That's good for both brands. I also in Pele case, we have a strong Canadian business because we manufacture the product here. So like our holidays on July 1st. I don't know if you guys know that.
Canada Day.
Yeah, Canada Day, July 1st, 4th of July, July 4th. And then we'll kind of take a little bit of a break and I think then rip up for Prime Day. But Sean, do you guys, and Jason, actually this goes because you have a really strong Amazon business. I saw a question come in and like, are you guys sending traffic in platform to Amazon or are you going to run on site as well and then really just hammer on site? And I know Marty talked about this on the show too, right? And how he does it. Like, what's your view this year?
And we figured we'd take a shot. I think my team feels like that the demand, people are going to go there anyway. Ramping up PPC ads on Amazon, running light deals. I mean, I think basically there's like a blanket. We're kind of doing a 15 to 20% off on a lot of our individual pieces for Prime Day. Just to, I think the buyer intent is there and people are ready to go. So, but we're also running different deals on our site. This is the Marty hack that we got last year, and it was a game changer for us. So unfortunate that it's so close to the 4th of July, but I guess customers will be lucky and, will be on sale a lot more than, our sales, our merchandising have gotten better over time. Like we're not actually, we managed to raise prices because the demand is there. And so now when we discount, it's really not.
Yeah.
Our discounted prices now are our retail prices from last year, to be honest. So
that's amazing. And Sean, what about you, man? Do you run on site or are you going to do mostly just Amazon for Prime Day?
We mark down enough to get a Prime Day deal and we have some sort of strategy where like you try to get the top deal spot for whatever, and you have to work with your rep to try to get it. And so maybe for an hour we get homepage placement or something like that, and there's some sort of spend commitment to do that. But so I'm not trying to say like we have no Prime Day strategy or whatever, but it's just not a core part of our business, right? I think Amazon really wanted to try to create a Black Friday type event with that type of volume, and for us it just isn't anything close to that.
It's wild. It's like we're such a giftable item, Lomi, that like our Q4, I do like 50% of my revenue in like 8 weeks. Yeah. In November and December, right? Like for the year. And it's just like our volumes just go up like 5 to 10x in that time. And Amazon doesn't have enough power to do that in July or in October as much as they try. Not for us.
Yeah, and it's the exact same for us. A typical Prime Day, is 3 to 5 times a normal sales day for us. Yeah. And like if we really lean all in and do everything, maybe it'll be 6 or 7. But Black Friday is 20 times or something crazy, right? It ends up being $1 million day on Amazon. The one, if I could give advice to everyone listening to this, and this is probably the next point Matt was going to talk about, we are entering into a very discount heavy season with Q3. It's like, people are worried about July 4th and, it being too close to Prime Day or whatever. Blowout sales are already happening at fashion brands right now. And I think that blowout summer is here, and that's what's going to lower inflation rates. It's like people have to liquidate inventory, right? Like it's a bad position. And I think if you're a brand, this is probably a once in a 3-year opportunity to have discounts running from right now until back to school. You could probably crank that up, and it's just, you're going to see every top tier brand start doing this.
Yeah, nobody's going to escape this carnage. There's no question. And Jason, like raising your prices last year is just, it looks like you're clairvoyant, man. Because you're going to give yourself room this year.
We sold so much in Q4 that we really didn't have a choice. We're just like, either we're going to go out of stock or we're just going to.
I remember you talking about that you're out of, like you're actually out of stock on a lot of your important stuff. Okay, so here, then let me ask you this then, my follow up. And Sean, I know you have strong opinions in this. Leading into a busy season, so Q3, Jason, you're like, your question earlier was, how high are we going to let our CPAs or CAC drift up? Sean, how far ahead of the busy time are you guys ramping up top of funnel and spending? Like, so into that slow season, how much are you ramping and when?
Okay, so we're trying to run the business at a 3x efficiency this year, right? So, during Q4, we probably, this is efficiency being MER or whatever else.
Yeah.
In Q4, we'll probably end it at like a 4x or whatever, right? At Father's Day, we probably ended somewhere around a 3x. So in these times, we basically just hit that efficiency number that like we'd like to. It's a free cash flow number per day or profit number per day. And we push that as far as we can get to, but we basically want to make sure we're turning a profit every single day, right? We don't think of Q3 as like this big, demand generation period. We have an event we essentially made up in August, starts August 15th, runs to the end of September. We'll spend a fuck ton of money doing that. But this 6-week period going into July, it's really, we're not really ramping. We're just kind of operating the business at like target efficiency.
But October, you're gonna eat shit a little bit because you're getting ready for Q4.
Oh yeah, I mean, in October we run the business at break even, so I drop the efficiency to like 1.4x or whatever, and then spend into it. But
that's gold right there.
That's why I was trying to get him to say it. I'm like, just say how, because so October now, is that like? And Jason, what do you do, man? Because I got thoughts on this.
I just hate that Sean gave that one away. I just hate that Sean gave that one away.
It's a good thing to get that out there.
October is always kind of tough. I mean, last year we got saved by a Prime Day, right? Like last year was the first year they had Prime Day in October, so it boosted our numbers because we did the whole deal. We did Prime Day and we did the offsite. We did the D2C Prime stuff. We probably will. We've seen in general September and October, they're just bad months, and we're from an efficiency perspective, and we got to be willing to suffer through it because every year we prove that. We capture that demand at an incredibly high efficiency November. And typically what's happened in the past is like we run out like too early in December.
Yeah. We, last year we started our TV spend in October, and I think it was the best thing we did. Cause like it pre-built. I mean, it made our financials in October look like shit, but then like we loaded up so much demand from that spend that November and December just ripped.
Matt, it's why public companies report on quarters and not months,
right?
And they should really report on maybe full year or half year because
I know.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, but as an operator, losing money in October, I mean, it's kind of like getting returns in January. It's like, it's expected part of the holiday business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you saying that you get half your revenue in an 8-week period, it's like, that's when you should spend going into that 8-week period. The rest of the year, I mean, you shouldn't even be trying to scale. It's like
efficiency. Once Prime Day is over, we will be off in top of funnel kind of everywhere. It'll be a Facebook, Google little combo match of like ASC and PMAX and just let it be efficient. Don't really give a shit about much else. It's like, and we're a back end business. So it's like, how efficient can I acquire subscribers on the Lomi side? And then this year we're doing a massive product launch in September, like right after back to school. Like most schools are back by like after the Labor Day weekend, September, that first week. So I'm going to like do a massive launch right before Apple does theirs. Not like Apple gives a shit about us. It's just that it's really hard to do anything when Apple's launching the iPhone. So we're going to try and like go 5-6 days before with a new product, new hardware.
Well, dude, I'd love to see you up on stage, a full Apple rollout, dude. You're up there selling.
I don't love myself enough to be like that douchey. That I maybe I'll get there one day where it's like I wear the same fucking thing every time. I don't know. I'm just not. No, we're gonna do something. My team really wants to do that kind of production of a creative asset for a launch. We've never really done that, so we'll see what they come up with. But that's our, Jason, to your like September, October for us are terrible. I actually think that it might be the 2 worst months of the year. That and like February. So I think this year we're going to try and like launch the product in September, knowing that we'll probably sell the most of it in November and December. There was one question here around how do you guys finance inventory, right? So like you're both profitable businesses, bootstrapped. You've been around a long time. I don't know that we've ever talked about this. I know we've chatted about it in the chat. Jason, maybe you take this because like your background is all finance, but how are you bankrolling doubling your inventory buy for Q4?
We had negative working capital businesses. I advised businesses that had like negative working capital. So this was a real wake up call for me. We're being very careful about our cash.
Sean, do you do anything different from Jason, or are you pretty much?
Well, I think the inventory conversation is going to increasingly be the most important conversation people have, right? Yeah. You asked about how we do buying earlier, right? I think we kind of glossed over some of that question, but fashion companies keep 1 quarter of product on hand, right? Like that's gold standard if you're an apparel company. Almost nobody in D2C operates that lean, right? You have to be an operational expert to get down to quarterly turns, right? Like Lululemon turns inventory 4 times a year. I mean, Ridge has $100 million MSRP of wallets right now. So like we used to have here, 2013, since then we've grown about 50% every single year. 2014, 50% every single year. Every single dollar outside of paying for Facebook ads and paying our taxes has gone into inventory, right? So we now have a balance sheet of fully paid off inventory that's 8 figures, right? In the tens of millions of dollars. So we do not have a line of credit. I mean, Chase did give us a $4 million line of credit that like we can borrow from whenever. I don't have any deployed, so it's mostly just been reinvesting in this business this whole time. So that's the way we've been able to build up our reserves so that like we don't have to borrow from a bank or whatever. We've never taken an investment. It's just like delayed satisfaction. Nobody here has Lamborghinis, right? We've just put every dollar back into buying inventory. We're now at a point where we can take distributions and it feels pretty nice, but and we can get lines of credit from wherever. But we've only been able to do that because we have a non-seasonal, non-perishable product, right? If you're Lululemon, you can't have fucking tank tops in December. People don't want them.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Matt.
No, I was going to say, you know what you're saying about inventory turns, dude? We run almost monthly inventory on Lomi, on the hardware. Cause it's like, and so we've got this arrangement with our suppliers where I try to keep about 30 to 45 days worth of stock on hand. And if I sell out, I actually use that as like marketing. But it's like, oh, we sold out again, get in line. And then the pre-order system goes back on.
Yeah, that's crazy. that's running incredibly lean. A delayed boat, you don't have a business. Like that's the type of shit. We've gone, at a certain point, we've probably had 2 years worth of inventory on hand, and now we're getting it down to 6 months.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, we launched the business, and for a year, I didn't ship a damn thing, right? We were on pre-order. So like, it's one of the benefits of creating a category is like when you are super different, people actually wait for the product. Like they will actually just get in line. It's not like I don't have a lot of people that they're like, well, I guess Lomi's not in stock, so I'll just go buy this other ding dong thing over here. So that allows us some leeway with like doing what Tesla does, which is just like, nope, sorry, demand is too high. You got to wait 6 months for your car.
Yeah.
Like you can do that. It's a strange move, but we like it.
I was gonna say that would just give me a fucking heart attack. Right?
It does.
Like...
Yeah, I have them regularly. Yeah. Why do you think I ride my bike and run so much, guys? I'm trying to stay alive. I keep physically moving. So look, I think I don't know if we have time for one more question. We're 6 minutes past. I got one up here, but Philip, do you want us to do one more, or do you want us to wrap?
Yeah, you can take. You're the final act of the day. We're going until dinner. I'm kidding, but there's 2 more questions.
I feel like, Jason, this is all for you. This is like a tee up for a Panzerism. I see this. It's like if you had a life reset, you had to start all over again, and you could only remember this person saying 3 things. Maybe take one so that like our brains don't explode. 3 things from what you've done so far, what would they be? So like, what's the thing that like, if you were starting over right now and all you got to take with you was your experience and your knowledge, what's the thing that you believe from a principles? Cause I know you've got lots of them. What's the one?
All of the online resources and all of the seminars and the events, formal education. And I think Sean would agree with this because I've heard him, hint at it, how formal education is just availability of information out there now. So thinking back, and when we talked about student loans too, it's like all money spent on education, to me, is probably a way more efficient way to do it. I'm past that point already, but I've always been a lifelong learner, and it's just nice to see how many resources that are out there for people now. But you mentioned the Panzerisms. I mean, the number one thing that I constantly come back to continue to say, it's just the harder you work, the luckier you get. I mean, you just have to grind. Everyone that I run into these days, and I used to feel like there was this sort of lack of grit among the younger generations. And like the 6 of them got an Airbnb in like a really bad neighborhood because whoever did it, but these guys, these are the type of people that I hire. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Sean, if you were to rewind the clock 10 years to when you were 7 years old, what's the lesson that you take with you?
Yeah, really, it's just the ability to do anything, right? And I don't want that to sound like a Disney line or whatever, like you can do whatever you want or whatever you put your mind to. But the reality is, I ended up going to an alternative high school because I got into a bunch of trouble. I got thrown out of middle school and a bunch of stuff. So I had to go to a bad kid school. And I remember the counselors there, the teachers there, the principals there, they really wanted to do a good job. They really wanted to help everybody. But the advice they would give you, it's the best I could do is end up just like you. And I'm not saying they're doing bad or anything, but I remember the principal, Dan, was the most depressed person I've ever seen in my entire life, right? His wife left him and he's sitting there and he's he's just he has to show up every day and deal with kids who are getting in trouble and doing drugs or whatever. And I was just oh yeah, I don't need to be a part of the system, right? That's the beauty of ecom or even permissionless entrepreneurship is that no, you can literally do whatever. I've met people with hundreds of millions of dollars who are super dumb. And I'm oh, okay. I'm I could just do that then, right? It's I think there's a structure in place that we buy into, that people in power deserve those positions or whatever. But man, I think it's all just luck and ability to break the mold. So I don't know if there's a punchline there. I don't know if there's
it's pretty good actually.
Okay.
You know what mine was I was gonna go with your net worth is your net worth. And that if I was starting over today, I think I would because I made this comment before, it took me a long time to realize that building my first company, I didn't really get out in the world and try to meet other entrepreneurs and get face to face, not this digital networking bullshit, get face to face, go to events. I would probably start off trying to meet as many people as possible in whatever field I was going to go into. Because I think that's where the magic comes from.
All right, I'm gonna have a second one.
No.
my second one is everyone thinks about themselves way more than you're thinking, or than they think about you, right? Yep. It's totally okay to cringe and look like an idiot because nobody's even looking at you. You can walk around with fucking ketchup on your shirt all day long and no one would notice because they're worried what their shirt looks like, right? So just go out there and just cringe it up, man.
Yeah, anyway, very cool.
That's my second one.
All right.
Love that.
Love it. Right on. Well, I think that's it, guys. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but
yeah, thank you so much for joining us. But yeah, I know the people appreciated it. So thanks so much for the insights and on the tips and tricks on becoming greater entrepreneurs.
That was lots of fun.